All right, good afternoon, folks. Today we are going to talk about discretionary income, ultimately when it comes to making your money work for you. As most of you know, I have been keeping track of the stock market, and I wanted to put some educational videos just to help as we learn and track these stocks together. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was discretionary funds and discretionary income. As many of you know, I'm not a fan of the get rich quick scheme. So when we talk about funding and investing in stocks and so forth, everything that I'm going to direct you towards is always going to be at holding stocks for 7 to 10 years. So one of the first questions I get is typically, where does that money come from? What money am I using? And a lot of people that I talk to that are first looking to invest in the stock market, a lot of them tend to think that the money that they get paid from their job is the money that they're then taking and putting into the stock market. But I don't really advise that. What I advise is that you use your discretionary income, right? That your bills are paid, your rent is paid, your necessities are all paid. So what is it when we talk about discretionary income? So to start, discretionary income, it's defined as the remaining funds available after your taxes and your essentials, your expenses such as rent, food, and utilities have all been paid. So what we just discussed, right? You want to make sure that your needs, your must-haves, those things are all covered, and the funds that we're using to put into the stock market or whatever investing utility you want to use, the funds we're looking at are funds that are considered discretionary. Discretionary money is used for your non-essential spending, so this could be savings or investments. Typically, most of you probably use your discretionary income to buy coffee, to go to the bar and buy some drinks, to go out to the restaurant, eat some food. So again, your discretionary money is the money you have left over after your essentials, such as rent, your food in the refrigerator, and your utilities are covered, right? Your Wi-Fi, your cell phone bill, all those things. So now, before we really start diving into that discretionary money, you want to build a safety net. Now, the safety net rule is to have at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses saved before you invest. So, again, I'm very big on making sure that your buckets are taken care of, right? Your first need is rent. Investment individuals will say that you should not spend more than 30% of your monthly income on your rent. So, 30%, as soon as you get paid, 30% goes directly to your rental bucket, right? The next 10 to 20% go to your utilities, your car note, your insurance, your Wi-Fi, those things, right? So that's 30% plus 20%, that's 50% of your income. Most of you probably are at that 70% threshold where 70% of your income, anywhere between 50 and 70% of your income is going to go towards your rent, your utilities, your car, and so forth. So for my college folks, my college students that really don't have the quote unquote adult bills yet, when you get that job and you get that first paycheck, think of that, right? Before you leave mom's house, right? Before you leave your parents' house, make sure you have at least 3 to 6 months of a safety net where if you can't pay your rent next month because you lose your job or, something just traumatic, terrible happens, you have a safety net of 6 months where you don't have to worry about your bills being paid because you have enough money to pay those bills. In this current market, it takes about 90 days to get a job, right? And realistically, I've seen it go 6 months to a year. All right. So why is it perfect to have this safety net, and why it's perfect to use your discretionary funds is because your discretionary money is fun money, right? This is the coffee, the movies, the gym membership, things you can do without, right? I mean, gym membership, I would say that, health is wealth. So you should have a gym membership. However, the coffee can definitely go, $3 to $5 a day. And if you're getting specialty drinks, we're talking about somewhere in the ballpark of $8 to $12. That adds up over a 30-day period. $3 alone, you're talking about $90, but if you're spending $10 a day over, a 30-day period, that's $300 that, you could go and buy a company like Nvidia or invest in a company like Nvidia, where to today's date of this recording, the share price of Nvidia is $191. You could buy 3 shares of Netflix. Today's date, Netflix is $84 a share, right? So again, we want to make sure that we have a 3 to 6 month safety net to make sure that our bills can be covered for 3 to 6 months before we start to really dive into or really start to allocate our money towards any type of investment or the stock market. So your discretionary money, why it's perfect for stocks. Think of discretionary money as fun money, your coffee, your movies, your gym memberships, your hobbies. Um, if these funds are diverted into the stock market, your rent and utilities can still be paid when you have that safety net set up. The safety trap, your savings account. So, some pros of having a safety account: traditional savings accounts are safe and FDIC insured of up to $250,000. So, you could have $250,000 in a savings account and it's insured in most cases. The cons, it's slow growth. When you think about putting your money into a savings account, we're realistically talking about earning 0.6% average over the year. And that's a 0.6% average. All right. Additionally, what can happen is, your money is not growing along with inflation. All right. So, again, the average inflation for the year is 2 to 4%. So you can put $250,000 into a savings account and you'll earn a 0.6% APY on average. But the problem with that is inflation goes 2 to 4% per year. So the value of your money isn't growing in a savings account at the same pace as the average inflation rate of 2 to 4%. Now, if you're at a bank that's FDIC insured, you have $250,000 that is insured, is protected if the economy ever falls or falters. But the problem, again, in the con, is that the value of your money loses value at a faster rate because inflation is 2 to 4%. Inflation risk. Prices often rise faster than 6%, meaning your money loses buying power over time. So it's great to have $250,000 saved up, but we want to be wise. And the money that we have in our savings account should technically only be the safety net to cover 6 months of bills. Maybe you want to do a year's worth in a savings account. No problem. I'm totally okay with that. But the advice and wisdom says anything over that should go into investments that will earn you more money over time and beat inflation and hopefully build some wealth on the back end. So the stock market is considered a growth engine when we're talking investments. You buy tiny pieces of a company, let's say Apple, which I think today is trading around $234 a share, or Tesla, which is about $471 or $440 to $470 per share. Think of these purchases as side bets on a company's performance. So you download an app like Robinhood, or Charles Schwab, or there's Stash. There's a couple, digital ones that you can, purchase and kind of play around with. And you deposit money into that account and you start buying pieces of a company. Now, do you technically own these companies? Yes and no. Yes, you're considered an owner, but realistically, you're buying into the valuation of that company. The true people that own the company are the ones that have preferred stock and the investment banks that actually give them the money. So we have a side bet, is what I like to call it. Now, historically, the S&P 500 averages a 10 to 12% growth rate per year. So again, when we talk about, putting your money into a savings account, you're earning 0.6% compared to losing 2 to 4% in buying power because of inflation. So we want to have six months to a year, I'll say, saved up that will cover your bills. Everything after that is overflow. And you're looking at putting now these additional dollars, you're looking at putting them in other vehicles that earn more money. This is what we call making your money earn money for you. All right. So again, as we talked about here earlier, money in a traditional savings account earns on average 6% over the time of a year, compared to investing money into a strong company on the S&P 500, which will earn about 10 to 12% in the period of a year. So you can put your money into a company like Apple and it should gain 10%. So if Apple's $237 right now, at the end of the year, I anticipate that Apple's going to at least be valued at 265 to $275. That's where your money grows. But again, look at the pie here. 6 months in a savings account. And as once I hit that money, once I hit that number, whatever that number may be, every dollar after that should go into a, a higher risk, but a faster growing investment like the stock market. You can put your money in real estate, you can put your money in other things, but think of putting your money where it's going to be with an asset class that will actually grow over time. Right? I'm not taking my additional money and buying sneakers. I'm not taking my additional money and buying a car that's market price. I'm taking my additional money and I'm buying a stock in a company. I'm buying real estate. I'm buying something that grows more than inflation, more than 2 to 4% per year and holds its value. All right. Now, you'll hear something common in the stock market. You hear the rule of 72, which says that if you receive a 10% return for a company you're investing in or anything that you invest in that's an asset class that holds value, if you receive a 10% turn, your money could potentially double every 7 years. So again, if you have $250,000 in a savings account and you had it sitting there for 5 to 7 years, you've earned 0.6%, 0.6% compared to if you put it into a strong company, a Microsoft, a Meta, a Apple, a Tesla. If you put it in a company that you know will be here for the next 10 years, without a doubt, you should double your money every 7 years. So I'd rather you take $250,000 if it's saved up and put it into valuable companies in the stock market. And I guarantee you in 7 to 10 years, look, just give me 10% of whatever you earn. Again, the rule of 72 at 10% return, your money could double potentially every 7 years. This unlocks the power of compounding, where your interest earns interest. While savings accounts drip, stocks can double your money roughly every 7 years. There's also a hidden bonus, and this is taxes. Your savings account taxes, you typically are taxed. So if you have $250,000 in your savings account, this is considered regular income, and you could be taxed up to 37% for that money you have in your savings account. Whereas with the stock market, you don't get taxed on the money you don't spend. So if you put money into the stock market and you hold it there, you don't have to claim that stock on your taxes. The only time you claim that stock is when you sell it. Now, if you sell the stock in under a year, you owe capital gains tax. And the longer you hold, the less that capital gains tax is. So again, every time when you hear me talk about the stock market, when I advise you to sell, you've had that company, you've had that stock, you've been invested in that company for at least 7 to 10 years. So again, if the rule of 72 is true, every 7 years, your money is doubled. And if you sell your stock at that point, then you'll probably pay the lowest capital income or capital gains tax, which right now you're talking about 15%. We always have to be wise and aware of tax law and tax code. This is why when, the billionaires like the Elon Musk, who puts their money in this company and they never pull out, but then 7 years later, when they're ready to, they're hit with this large tax bill. We also have to be aware of the amount of the original investment and understanding how much it's grown. Yes, it's a large tax bill, but this is money that's doubled or tripled or quadrupled over this time period. You're paying taxes off of free money realistically. Now, our strategy again is you can invest into some low cost index funds. What you'll get from me is a daily market report, uh, basically keeping you up to date with what's happened in the market. This also is an educational newsletter, so I don't just tell you what happened, I tell you why it's valuable or how it could impact the stock. Now, listen, it's just information, it's not financial advice, but keeps you in tune without having to always go and watch CNBC or Worldwide Exchange or Mad Money and so forth. This is just a simple newsletter that will tell you how the stock is doing or how stocks have been doing. So far, at the date of this recording, I monitor about 18 companies that I find interesting, and I want to see where they grow from here the next 5 years. I mean, right now it's all on AI and so forth. So I'm keeping track because I'm interested in these companies, but I'm willing to add more companies as time progresses. But as you put money in these stocks, again, it's a 7 to 10 year thought process. So whatever stock you buy, you set it and you forget it. Now, what we're referring to in this slide, low cost index funds, you can find index funds that basically invest in a series of companies. So it's a side bet on a side bet. And we know that our goal, that stock should gain 10% per year. And that's a minimum baseline because in 7 years, my original investment, I need it to grow or double, excuse me. The mindset again, we want to ignore short term wobbles. We want to build for a 7 to 10 year horizon. And the biggest lesson, the best lesson I've ever learned from investing in the stock market, don't ever panic sell. All right. Now, things will happen. Companies will weather through storms and dips, you know, but don't panic sell. It's important. It's the value of why we pay attention to these stocks on a daily rate. But keep in mind, I'm investing in this company for the next 7 to 10 years. I'm investing in this stock for the next 7 to 10 years. So do your research, but an easy way, an easy entry is if you buy it, buy it. If you have an Apple iPhone, it's $1,000 for an iPhone. Spend $237 a month on buying Apple stocks. Apple's, just buy one stock a month, or look at a series of 10 stocks that are less than $100 of companies that you believe are valuable for the next 5 years. Every month, buy one share of that stock that's under $100. Again, 7 to 10 years, your money will double. All I ask for is 10% of whatever that is. All right. Well, that will wrap up our first video here in regard to discretionary funds. Again, my goal here with these videos is just to educate you on the stock market, different strategies to invest. These videos do coincide with my market report, which I send out on a daily basis. You can find the market report at my website, www.dlbowers.com. Thank you. Have a great day.